Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. And I'm delighted to welcome you, our valued clients and distinguished guests, to the 19th Annual Asian Investment Conference of Credit Suisse. I started, as many of you know, in my role at Credit Suisse last July. But in fact, and luckily, this is not my first AIC. For those of you who were here in 2011, I attended as a client of Credit Suisse. And at the time, I was asked to describe the forces at play in the insurance sector and the growth potential driven by both Asia's demographics and the rapid wealth creation underway in the region. What I found particularly rewarding then, as a client of Credit Suisse, was that the AIC provided an exceptional platform to learn about the most relevant investment trends and ideas in Asia-Pacific and offered us potential ways to benefit from them. The AIC also, of course, was an excellent way to connect to many existing and sometimes even new business partners. While many things have changed since 2011, the prime objectives of the conference have remained the same. We aspire to provide you, our clients, and our partners with insight, solutions, and ideas about this fascinating region and its powerful, attractive investment opportunities. And we hope that while you are here, you have the opportunity to meet old friends and make new ones with 4,000 participants, and I'm told $18 trillion in the room. That should not prove too challenging. As we are all aware, 2016 has had quite a turbulent start. And since the conference last convened in 2015, we have seen some dramatic developments across asset classes. Equity markets have seen high volatility, peaking in the third quarter of last year and remaining elevated by historic standards even for the first quarter of this year. Credit spreads in the high yield and sub-investment grade markets have remained persistently high, especially in the first quarter of 2016. And we have seen significant movements, continued significant movements in commodities markets, with crude oil prices, for example, having fallen around 38% year on year and 44% versus the peak of May 2015. In that context, there are broader questions about the outlook for our region, Asia and beyond, from an economic, financial, political, and social perspective. In the US, we are seeing presidential politics play out. In China and India, the governments are in the midst of significant reforms to reshape their economies. In Japan and Europe, markets are learning to deal with negative interest rates, while in the US, the tightening bias stated has been put on hold, on a relative hold. To make things simpler, technology continues to disrupt businesses, industries, and our way of life. From the advent of driverless cars, what a concept, to how we consume media and information. Geopolitical instability and environmental and social threats are impacting the economic outlook of large parts of the world. And for banks, money managers, asset managers, regulation is becoming increasingly complex. We hope this week will allow us to explore in depth some of these questions. They're all on the program with various panels, and to shed some light on some of the important issues they raise. There is a Chinese proverb that says that it's better to light a candle than curse the darkness. So I hope that we can light a candle together and shed some light on these issues. I'll just run quickly through the highlights of the program. We will start, of course, with our traditional keynote economics panel, where we have assembled a distinguished group of noted economists and political strategists to help us interpret where we are in the economic cycle and whether, following the global financial crisis of 2008-09 and the European sovereign debt crisis of 2011, we are entering a third leg of the financial crisis, which would be characterized by weakness in emerging markets and stalled growth in developed markets. The panel will certainly be lively and is a good way to start because it will provide us with the context for everything we intend to discuss this week. This year, and you've seen the statistics in the short video, we have gathered many political, economic, business, and social leaders who can offer us unrivaled insight into some of the major issues of the day and who can help understand where the next major investment opportunities can come from. Tomorrow, We will hear from the chairman and president of a newly established Asian Infrastructure Investment Bank, Jin Lichun. This will be his first speech to a private sector organization since his new appointment. Chairman Jin and I know each other actually because we worked closely together for a year when I chaired the G20 high-level panel for infrastructure a few years ago, and I know his passion for infrastructure. He will provide us with a mandate of this latest multilateral organization that he presides over and its priorities. This is an organization first envisaged by China and now with shareholders from countries all over the world, and it will be extremely interesting to hear about the priorities of the new AIIB in a sector that makes such a contribution to the productivity and long-term growth potential of economies, infrastructure. Moving on to India. From India, we will get to hear from Arvind Subramanian, economic advisor to the Indian government, who will explain the roadmap Prime Minister Modi is taking to reform and the outcomes we should expect from this huge and growing economy. India is a major force in the world economy, and no one is in a better position than Mr. Subramanian to give us a view from the inside of the Indian economy. From the US, the United States, we are privileged to have an address this afternoon from Charles Evans, who, as a sitting member of the Federal Open Market Committee, the FOMC, will be able to share with us his view on the trajectory of the US economy and how the Fed is seeking to ensure that policies aimed at keeping growth sustained are being implemented appropriately. And it is always important for each of us, of course, to watch closely and understand better the dynamics of the largest economy in the world. We will listen to Charles with great interest. Sir John Major, who needs no introduction, former Prime Minister of the United Kingdom, and Anthony Samaras, former Prime Minister of Greece, will help us understand the political and economic complexities of Europe today and where the future lies for a continent which has not been able to generate meaningful economic growth for a long time, and where there is a lot of debate on the future of the EU, and I will not mention Brexit, and electoral and social pressures linked to the migration crisis. In addition, we are privileged to welcome this week the Prime Minister of Mongolia, Saikan Bishik-Kimed, who is leading a country that is among the fastest growing economies in the world, which is rich in resources and has China as its largest export market. We will hear from him about his plans to guide his country through the current environment of slower growth in China and a fall in commodity prices. At the AIC this year, as I mentioned earlier, we will also explore where the next disruptive technologies could come from. Dennis Hong from UCLA will tell us how far away we are from robots becoming part of our daily lives, while Lawrence Burns, formerly of General Motors, will talk to us about what impact driverless cars will have not only on our own driving habits, but also on our infrastructure and on our economies. From our home in Switzerland, Peter Maurer, president of the International Committee of the Red Cross, will talk to us about the huge disruption that comes from man-made disasters. He will also offer some suggestions about how we can avoid them or become better at spotting the early signals that precede such disruptions. And finally, last but not least, we are extremely privileged to also have a video address from the United Nations Secretary General, Mr. Ban Ki-moon. He will address the AIC exclusively on the recent landmark agreements made by governments around the world to reduce the effects of global warming. He will tell us about the investment opportunities this creates, and his address will precede a panel of distinguished and leading experts in both the fields of environmental policy and green investment markets to help illustrate how investors can gain exposure to the benefits that such an agreement should bring. So overall, it is a rich agenda, and we hope that it will be both educational and enjoyable. Before I close these remarks, I want to reassert that we at Credit Suisse consider you, our clients, as our main priority. We thank you for the trust you put in us by allowing us to support your business ambitions. We have put here in place in the region a dedicated, fully empowered regional division led by Helman Sitohang to ensure that we are focused on serving your needs and provide you with the best service possible bringing to bear for you the capabilities of our staff from around the world, as attested by the presence of many senior members of the bank here this morning. And I mentioned Jim Amin, who drives IBCM, Investment Banking and Capital Markets, or Iqbal Khan, who drives International Wealth Management. I wish you an excellent and productive week and hope to meet many of you while you are with us over the next 4 days. I will hand over after this to our co-head of Global Markets for Asia Pacific, Ali Naqvi, who will open the first session. We believe in Asia and we're here for the long term. Thank you very much.